Hi everybody! Today we are going to be talking about my spring TBR. Now I don't have all of these books in physical copies, some of them haven't come out yet, and also I just haven't bought some of them yet, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about this. I know some of you might be thinking like, Chelsea, you should have posted this video a while ago. We're like kind of into spring already, but I live in Minnesota and we're like barely in spring right now. The weather is so cold and gross. We like just got rid of the snow within like the last month. It's just starting to feel like spring for me. So this is just like the books that are on my radar for like the next month and a half or so. I've definitely been in like a literary fiction mood, historical fiction mood. I don't know. I've not been into fantasy. I will read a romance. I will read a thriller, but I don't know. I've just been loving fiction books. This is probably my most interesting TBR that I have just because of the contents in it. We're going to start with all of the books that I have physically and then I'll talk about all of the ones that I do not have yet. So getting into all of the books that I want to read this spring. Firstly, I would really like to read One Day. Now, I don't know if this is technically considered a romance, and I don't know a whole lot about this, but I do know that it recently was turned into a TV show or a Netflix movie, and it is about these two main characters who they only spend one day together each year, and they have this like very interesting relationship that develops from it. And that's kind of all I know. I'm pretty sure someone dies. I don't know if that's a spoiler because that could be a total lie, but I've heard that this is a pretty heartbreaking book. So I don't know. I've just been into books like that lately. Don't ask. I don't know what's going on. I know I did just say that I'm not wanting to read fantasies, but I would really like to read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I will admit I did try and start this and I got to page 28 and I was not interested in it, but I would like to go back and try and read the rest of this book. So this is I believe technically a cozy fantasy, and this is about Emily Wilde who goes to this other location and she is basically researching fairies to finish off this encyclopedia, and from my understanding is kind of enemies to lovers, but I have heard recently from a lot of booktubers that I watch that they did not like this book. So if you've read this book, let me know what you thought of it. I don't know. I already bought it, so I'm gonna at least give it a try. But yeah, I think the reason I was having a hard time with it when I first started it is just because I wasn't in the headspace to read fantasy names, because fantasy names are just like words that don't exist and they sound like in your head and you just have to act like that's normal. But hopefully within maybe like the end of April, beginning of May, I'll be able to read this. Next, I recently read a book that was all about Greek mythology, and Target had their like buy two get one free sale, and this was a book that they had that I have not seen, but I personally really love the story of Medusa, and this is from Natalie Haynes' Stone Blind, which I believe is a fictional retelling of the story of Medusa. I did just recently read Divine Might by Natalie Haynes. If you watched my last reading vlog, I was reading it in that video, and that was more of a historical fiction type of story where it's very almost like essay-like and you're learning about them. I believe this would be closer to like Circe and those books if you've read that. I'm very excited to read this, with me recently having read Divine Might, which is, like I just said, another sort of like Greek goddesses in that world book. I also bought the Odyssey and I forget what the other one is, but the like duology. I bought a collector's edition bind up of the two like very classic books. I think they're by Homer. I've never read those before, but I now own them, so I might try. This last book that I have a physical copy of is one that I've been so excited and I've been like itching to read. And this is the book that I'm going to start reading tonight because it's actually the release day of the Tortured Poets Department. I get to listen to the album tonight, and if you did not know, this is the book that Taylor Swift read and then wrote Tolerate It about, and Tolerate It is like one of the most beautiful, just gut-wrenching songs. And I actually found out about this book because of Haley Pham. She read it in a video. I don't know. I'm so excited to get into this. This is going to be my next book. I believe this is technically a classic, so I don't know if I'm going to love it. This is the story. It takes place in Monte Carlo. I did not know that actually. Our main character ends up marrying this man, and then she spends all of her days in like this mansion, this house, and she's kind of haunted by his late wife. That is all I really understand from it. But yeah, I'm very excited to read this. And then getting into the few books that I do not own physical copies of. Emily Henry is, I believe, releasing a book very soon, and I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. I'll put the cover up right here. I think it's Funny Story. By the time that I post this, the book might already be out, or it's coming out in a few days. But I'm really looking forward to reading that book. I don't really know what it's about, but I know I love Emily Henry books. I love that sort of literary fiction type of romance book. I have heard that this is more of a rom-com, and I'm kind of nervous about that. I don't love rom-coms. Out of like a rom-com or a romance, I will always go for a romance. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. Hopefully I will get that soon and be able to read that. Then another new release. This is by Leigh Bardugo, and this is The Familiar. I have zero clue what this book is about, but this cover is absolutely gorgeous. It is beautiful. I've never read anything by Leigh Bardugo. I don't know how to say their name, but I know that they are a very popular author, and I trust that they are popular for a good reason. That also is a book that I would really like to read soon. I might do a book shopping vlog, a little book trip to pick up those books. But yeah, I'm interested if that one, I believe that one's already out. If you've read it, let me know your opinions on that book, because I think they're the author of Ninth House, and that is a like dark academia, very gruesome story, and I don't know. I'm never gonna read Ninth House. I have no interest in ever reading it, and I don't know if this book follows any of that same sort of like gory, anything like that, because I'm not interested if it is. The last two books that are on my spring TBR are not very springy, but I've really been wanting to read them, and that is The Handmaid's Tale. I think I said that right. I'm not really sure. This obviously is by Margaret Atwood, and I'm pretty sure most of us already know at least a baseline of what this story is. I've never actually read it. I never had to read it for school or anything like that. And I know that some people would be like, why do you want to read that when the state of the world is the way that it is and things are already scary enough in real life? But I think stories like that are so important to read, and I really want to understand it. I want to know when people are like talking about how real life is kind of turning out to be like The Handmaid's Tale. I want to know what they mean. So that's a book that I really want to read. I think I'm gonna rent it from my library and see if they have it. And then the last book that I really want to read this spring is Gone Girl. Now this book is, I've never seen the movie, I've never read the book, and it is one of those books that is from my understanding, the woman is supposed to be painted as the villain. It's one of those books and movies that it's considered like a good for that woman, good for her. From my understanding, Gone Girl is about this woman who, her husband is abusive, and she goes missing but tries to frame him for her murder. That is what I know about it. I could be completely wrong. For some reason, I am just in this mood of I really want to read these like deep and dark and like they make me feel smart reading them stories. So yeah, that is my TBR. That is it for this video. I know none of these books are like super springy, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment, a like. You know what to do all the YouTube things. I will see you in my next video, and until then,